First in the order today, Kyle Dewar. He is, of course, native to Canada, now based out of Ocala, Florida, and one of his recent winners in a welcome just a few weeks back here in Aiken at another venue within the equestrian community here. Clever Vandel is the mount that will start our show here today to a format for our welcome, and Kyle Dewar, of course, competing to show the way. The jumps will include 1 through 13. We've got a couple of combinations you're going to identify here coming up on the first of those after the Daybreak Farm vertical, and that is an Oxer vertical combination. Plank, a top flat, cups coming out of that combo. And then around the bend they will go. Represented in jump number 2, the Maybum Fine Oxer that they've already overtaken without problem. Kyle's coming around to that triple I was mentioning on the far side in front of our VIP and hospitality area. That's the green, yellow, and white striped vertical, and Oxer combination. And down to the final jump here, number 13. That's our Aiken Saddlery Oxer all the way through. And they are going to do it in a penalty-free manner. 76.252 will be the finish time there, well within our time allowed. So clear off the bat, and that bodes well for the potential of a jump-off today in our welcome stake. And, of course, we've got some other quality competitors coming to us. This is one of our newer-based Aiken riders, a professional named Grant Sager. He comes to us just over a year removed from, or actually I should say a year and a half removed from his base being in Texas. Came to Aiken, has been competing throughout the region over the last year and a half here successfully, and he'll join us here aboard a mount named Cantuccini for his Gray Fox Crossing. Second of 34 starters here today, Grant Sager. Once again, approaching the first combination, which is fairly late in the course here at 8 or 7A and B, just over midway through. 16 jumping efforts in the Michel Vaillancourt designed route here today. And we are deep into the course at this point with just a few fences remaining, a combination of 3 jumps and that final Oxer we mentioned earlier. And we will right off the bat have a jump-off guarantee if he can maintain his clear route. So far he's good. 1 more to go. Up and over all the way through to what will be round 2 action. We'll have a jump-off for sure. Grant Sager joining Kyle Dewar on the clear list. Canada was represented in Kyle Dewar now as well in Harold Chopping, member of the team on several international occasions for Canada, though he's been a Southern Pines-based rider now for quite a while. He's going to be here aboard Geronimo SCF, entry owned by Diane Halpern, number 191. Harold spending a big part of his winter in Ocala this season. Of course, lots of news being made in Ocala with several high-quality competitions being offered there over the course of the winter. Changing times are being seen throughout this era and in many different ways, of course. Harold had success with several of his entries there, both the jumper and the hunter ranks, but he's going to fall victim to the first combination today, as well as the preceding fence there with Geronimo. Geronimo pulls the rail, the back rail, and the plank at those 3-in-a-row fences. Trying to avoid further penalties as he comes around the bend of the last jump. .77 and change time there. Knocked down at 3 obstacles all in a row in front of the judges' stand here. That was fences 6 and 7AB, so that is a 12-fault penalty. If you're looking at one of the orders of go you may have found online there, we did have a scratch in the 5th position of that order. So scratching the 5th position, that's what's going to take us down to, would have been 35, but we also had a scratch later in the list, so actually 34 will compete as of now. Here we go with Meclovita PS, Tom Foley for Melissa Blades, and as you see, proudly displayed on the saddle pad aboard Meclovita PS, Tom Foley is a proud Irishman. Already successful this spring in Aiken at the Aiken Spring Classic. Placed in several of the open jumper classes there. Top 4 in the Grand Prix and also in the young jumper events over the course of the spring season. Once again, this mount here today is Meclovita PS. Rock the back rail on the DFG Stables Oxer and the following fence number 4 where the Liverpool lies beneath the blue and white striped rails. So far working on 8 faults. .12 to here as they round the bend to approach the final triple combination. This entry again by owned by Melissa Blades of Pittsboro, North Carolina, is an Oldenburg mare by Messenger. They've got first and last fences, actually all 3 fences down there in the triple combination as well. 24 faults the result there for Tom and Meclovita PS. Well, the first two made short work of things here. It was Kyle Dewar first with Clever Vendel, and that one a welcome winner a few weeks back at Stableview here in Aiken. Then Grant Sager and Cantuccini posted a clear. We know we're going to have a jump off with those two entries at least. Now we'll see if Texas-based Dorothy Douglas can clear the route as well. Excuse me, Dory is going to be coming back hopefully later on here, but right now it's actually 151 joining us, that being Kara Jones aboard Endgame. Endgame again owned by Kara Jones. It is a 12-year-old bay warm blood gelding by Chester Z. And she's been competing already this season in welcome classes up in Tryon, North Carolina. Definitely in a hot spot of equestrian competition. Aiken with 3 venues unto itself. We've also, of course, got not too far away there, the Tryon International Equestrian Center. Have become very popular in the past 6 years since they opened up. Of course, Tryon for decades and decades has already been a big hot spot for equestrianism, but she's been competing there in Tryon earlier this season, also in the Gulf Coast Series down in Mississippi over the course of the Winter Tour, and several times placed in the ribbons in those Grand Prix events. But her most recent outing just a couple of weeks back placed her 5th in the Grand Prix, 6th in the Welcome Stake during the Tryon 4 Series. Rails at 2 locations there, fence number 11. That's our green is the new blue vertical, as well as the back of the triple combination, both down. 4 faults apiece, and that means 8 faults total for Kara and Endgames. Stays just under the time allowed, by the way, in 80.5, 81 seconds our time allowed here today. Now we will see Dory Douglas and Nina Moore's entry, MTM Cedric, number 627. MTM Cedric. This, the 8-year-old bay Holsteiner gelding by Coleman. Nina Moore's entry. Dorothy Douglas, the professional rider, again based out of Texas, in the irons here today. She actually, just a couple of weeks back, came out of Jacksonville's Spring Series with ribbons in their Welcome and Grand Prix events, just in the middle and early April show season. Placed 4th in both of the welcomes over that 2-week tour, and then an 8th and a 5th in the Grand Prix events there in Jacksonville, Florida. Another new series in Florida. They also were successful competing throughout the Ocala Winter Series events this season, placing in several of the welcome and Grand Prix events there. Dorothy Douglas, again, the professional rider out of MTM Farm, alongside Mike McCormick and Tracy Fenney. Of course, very big names in show jumping, who were also quite successful throughout their time in Ocala this year. Still trying to add her name to the list. She'd be the first lady and the 3rd overall rider to get through to round 2 behind Kyle Dewar and Grant Sager. And she's 2 fences away from doing so. One more jumping effort over 13. She will, in fact, be penalty-free And by the original order of go, that's exactly where she would have been. First, second, and third are Kyle, Grant, and Dory. All three clear, and all three planning to come back. The jump off, of course, is where the big money will be won here today out of our $5,000 offered up. Brought to us again by Deirdre Stoker-Vaillancourt of the Maybon Fine Realtors. Aiken, quite the community for equestrianism, as it's been for decades, even over a century. It has been a winter colony for those coming down from the south, but even from the times when equestrianism was just a part of everyday life to now, it has maintained a very strong horse presence directly across the road from the Bruce's Field or Aiken Horse Park. A well-traveled polo venue. We've got dressage, driving, eventing, and more, all a part of the scene. Of course, we're also just across the road from a very big thoroughbred training operation. We've got trotters just around the corner, so perhaps more of a strong equine contingent or equestrian contingent than anywhere else in the country here in Aiken. And, of course, it's a beautiful place to live as well. Very homely environment. And if you're looking for a property here, maybe you should speak with Deirdre Stoker-Vaillancourt. She's got a lot of experience in the area, knows all of the different regions. If you're looking to buy a farm or just a personal property, this would be the place to go. We now have on course Josh Dolan, and he's aboard the R. Megan Patterson entry Beyoncé de Mons, number 365, hoping he can be the fourth one to qualify himself for a return trip here in the jump-off round. Using those verbal clues coming through the combination here to bring his horse back just a bit to get up and over the plank vertical coming out of the combination there. Flat cups are what hold that plank in place. That makes it very easy to bring the rail or the plank down. But they were successful in navigating through so far, staying clear to here as they approach the triple on the way down the final line. Josh Dolan almost there. And he'll be a part of the tiebreaker back in round two as well with Beyoncé de Mons. Osiris, the Mario Garcia entry next to go. We've already made it into our 8th spot with 312 coming up next. Again, Mario Garcia is on course here, and 8th one to compete is aboard Cyrus, also very active on the Aiken Springs scene. They've already, unfortunately, got a rail down at the first fence there, those solid turquoise rails atop the GGT footing vertical. So that's going to mean 4 faults right off the bat. Keeping it clear from that point forward would give them a chance to have a nice ribbon here today. Even with 4 faults, if you can finish in an efficient, quick manner, maybe you can still stay into the ribbons. Cyrus, as you can see here, 7-year-old Dark Bay Oldenburg mount. In fact, they're just coming out of the young jumper divisions here out of the 7-year-olds. Sort of just recently graduating up to the Grand Prix level that they're now competing in. 2 rails down so far. Of course, as it was fence number 1 and now 6A. So they're up to 8 faults currently. Down again at C of the triple. And that means a 3 knockdown penalty. 12 faults the result aboard Cyrus. As I mentioned, a 7-year-old mount, so really just getting started at this level of show jumping, having only recently graduated out of the young jumper ranks and just now making the debut at this Grand Prix level. Kyle Dewar coming up next. It's his second ride. He's trying to go 2 for 2 in qualifying. As I mentioned earlier, an Ocala-based rider originally from Canada. Earlier he steered clear aboard Clever Vandel. That one was a welcome winner at the Stable View Series just a couple weeks back. He's now here, as I mentioned, aboard F Gunsmoke RHF, an entry owned by Joan Burke. Number for scoring is 263. Gunsmoke for short, a Dark Bay Dutch Warm Blood gelding by Zoot SCF. Placed third in that Stable View Grand Prix 2 weeks back. You know, some good riding, of course, but there's also a little bit of good luck involved to this point. They've come down on a couple of rails so far that have just rocked a bit in the cups and stayed up, but now the luck runs out a bit on the entrance and exit of that triple combination. 2 knockdowns and 8 faults, and I believe that's what we'll get, 8 faults total in a 77 and change time. That's for Gunsmoke, F Gunsmoke RHF to be sure, and Joan Burke's entry shown again by Kyle Dewar. Also Ocala base, we're going to have Megan Wexler coming up next, riding the Phelan Farms entry Flash Dance, number 340. Megan Wexler riding Flash Dance again for Phelan Farms. The number is 340. Again, she's also based out of Ocala, Florida. Flash Dance competing in the Ocala Series this winter. Placed in a couple of welcoming Grand Prix there. Is a chestnut 11-year-old Hanoverian gelding by 4 Edition. Good form so far here for Flash Dance. And will we have our second lady cleared? No, unfortunately not. Just as we're asking the question, it's answered with a rail down on the Sherrodale Oxer. The back fence, or the back of that fence, comes down. And she will stop the clock with just 1 knockdown there in 76.990. Just the 4 faults for the 1 knockdown. 11 entries so far out of 34 starters, so about a third of the way through. We have, once again, Kyle Dewar with Clever Vandel, Grant Sager with Cantuccini, Dory Douglas with MTM Cedric, all good to go up to this point. And also Josh Dolan with Beyoncé de Mons. course, if you found our streaming page here through the Aiken Charity Horse Show's website, no doubt you know a little bit of the history of this show and this facility. But just in case we have some new to the audience, the facility used for the Aiken Charity shows, as well as many other top-level performances and competitions throughout the year. Originally a steeplechase track that drew tens of thousands of spectators and top-level steeplechase horses and jockeys every spring. The steeplechase just recently departing from this facility as it has also undergone a major transformation. Great footing, great barns, as well as other fantastic facilities on site here to make for fantastic competition. Big numbers turning out this year, approaching 700 stalls being sold, so it is a very popular place to be. And of course the weather this time of year in Aiken is a big draw, but also the great work that's been put into this facility, which was a lifetime dream of Bruce Duchessois, realized just before his passing, and we're happy to keep his memory in mind each year while this competition is underway, or in fact when any competition happens right here at the Aiken Horse Park, known as Bruce's Field. Rocking the D&W Group vertical just a bit there. Grant Sager's maintaining a clear so far and is on his way to a potential second qualifier aboard Hidalgo for Hillary Drummond Sport Horses LLC. Again, he's based right here in Aiken over the past year and a half. Moved here out of Texas. And unfortunately, the luck runs out at the last jump. Number 13 will drop for a 4-fault penalty, unfortunately. 75.666 will be the time there with Hidalgo, and again, a 4-fault penalty. On the bright side, he'll be a fast 4-faulter, and while he's got a qualifier aboard Cantuccini, that 4-faulter, Hidalgo, right now should go into 5th place as a result of the time. 287 coming up. 287. Chris Killam is here aboard entry number 287 at Cicero HS. Audrey Mascari's entry. Again, another equestrian hotspot found there in Ocala, Florida. They also have, of course, driving. They've got show jumping and eventing. They've also got thoroughbred racehorse raising and training going on there in Ocala, much like here in Aiken. Chris, one of the riders who just a few years back took up residence there in Ocala. That's where he spent most of his winter competing in some of the big classes there during the winter series. Once again, the horse he's currently on here is Cicero HS. Well, you heard him possibly calling for a bit of a woe going into the first combination on the course. Unfortunately, still pulling the plank off the top of the flat cups there at 6B. If he can keep it at just the 4 and have a speedy time, we'll still give him a chance at a ribbon today with Cicero HS. Cicero HS, by the way, is 11 years of age. A Westphalian gelding by Carlucci. 4 faults is where he'll stay. The unfortunate part of that is he's just a bit under the time allowed. It's fortunate that he didn't get any time faults there, but it wasn't the quickest routes for Chris Killam. Nonetheless, he's a 4-faulter right now. Should be in 5th place, actually 6th place currently. Still quite a few yet to go. This will be MTM Pablo, another Dory Douglas ride. Second entry for her. She was qualified earlier aboard MTM Cedric, so maybe she can go 2 for 2 and be a multiple qualifier here with MTM Pablo. So MTM Pablo, here's an 8-year-old bay warm blood gelding by Perague. MTM Farm Entry out of her base in Flower Mound, Texas. Runner-up in a $15,000 classic during the Ocala Hits Series this season. They also placed in several other open big money classes. A little stumble on the landing side after the DFG Oxer there, but they regain their composure and keep it clear through the diagonal line. Great form so far, tipping the rails on the rail and the plank, I should say, here at 6A and 6B, but so far penalty free. Nicely done as they round the bend of the triple combination. They are 4 jumps away from getting through with another one. One left. The 13 Oxer is where she'll finish up. And she's good to go there. Time allowed of 81 seconds. She stays just under that. An efficient enough route to get her in with a second entry here. She's now got MTM Cedric and MTM Pablo on the good list. So doing nicely here today. Dory Douglas in our $5,000 welcome stake. Once again, this welcome stake brought to us by Deirdre Stoker Vinecourt of Maybon Fine Realty. Second chance now for Harold Chopping as well. The Rain family's Quadrant 3 will be his mount. This is number 189. Once again, native to Canada, but he has been here in the U.S. for quite a while now out of the Southern Pines area. Second ride now for Harold. He's trying to make it his first qualifier. Had a couple of knockdowns on the earlier entry there. Quadrant 3, 9 years old, is a Gray Holsteiner gelding by Quadros. Once again, the Rain Family LLC owning this mount, based in Raleigh, just about 45 minutes north of Harold's home base. It's a pretty big vertical there in the center of the ring over the Liverpool, nearly topping the wings at fence number 4. And keeping it clear to here as they approach fence number 9, that D&W group vertical. Still good, fighting a little bit to get him back in hand until they get up and over the KW or Keller Williams Oxer. And again, luck comes into play there. They rock the front rail but still stay clear. Back rail drops at 12C, unfortunately, for a penalty of 4. And that will be the total here for Quadrant 3. 77.065 will be the time with 4 faults. And so that will put them right now, should be in 7th place based on the second fastest 4-fault time. Rachel Kennedy, Maryland-based rider in Brookville. She's here with Fandango, number 176. Once again, Rachel Kennedy, professional rider out of Brookville, Maryland. She's riding a 18-year-old bay Swedish warm-blood gelding by Last Liberty Fandango. Just a front rail at the DFG Stables Oxer for 4 faults so far. And that's as she approaches the midway point of the course here. At Daybreak Farm vertical is number 5. And that'll bring her to the approach of the combination. And once again, in the 4-fault column, we've got 76 and 77 times. Right now ranking 6th and 7th. If Rachel can get a quick time here and maintain that 4-fault penalty, just the one knockdown, she could stay in the ribbons. One more jump to go and accomplish that. And she will. She will unfortunately have an 83 and change time, which means she's over the time allowed by 3 commenced seconds. So we'll have 4 jumping and 3 time faults, 7 total with Fandango. One more entry, and we'll bring in the drag to freshen up the footing a bit here in our jumper ring. And again, our Aiken Charity Horse Show, the first of 2 weeks of competition here in a beautiful time of year in Aiken, South Carolina, on a beautiful facility known as Bruce's Field or the Aiken Horse Park. We've got draw another number 17 in the order, that is, back number 352 coming to us, and that's Tori Colvin's ride for Parker Peacock. It is Cary Grant K. Got just a bit deep maybe there at fence number 4. Pulled that rail with the back legs there as they were going down to land. Cary Grant K, the Bay Oldenburg gelding, 8 years of age by Kentucky. Could be a potentially speedy 4-fault route if she can keep it there. Coming around the bend. It looked like she did slow up just a bit on the approach to the triple combination. Coming down to 1 fence remaining. She did also pull the triple combination C element. So it's going to be an 8-fault score. And 78 and change time there with 8 faults. Well, we're halfway through the group. We're going to take a quick drag break now, and we'll freshen up the dirt a little bit here before we continue on. And coming out of that break, we'll see another Kyle Dewar ride. As he did earlier with Clever Vandel, he will hope to get a clear aboard Carmet T. We'll see what happens as we continue. Kyle's got another. We'll also see the first of Gavin Moylan's rides. David Jennings will have one coming up here. Grant Sager with an opportunity on a 3rd entry as well. And on down through the list, some more multiple riders in Megan Wexler, Chris Killam, Harold Chopping, and of course Dorothy Douglas trying to bat 1,000. So far she's 2 for 2 in qualifying. We'll see what she does on that 3rd mount, and then she's also got a 4th down lower in the order. But for right now, we'll take a break. A beautiful Thursday afternoon at the Aiken Charity Week 1. Stay with us. We'll be back after this quick break with the continuation of our welcome. Back underway here. We already have another Kyle Dewar entry in progress. He's here with Carmet T for Barbara Setter now. Carmet T is a 10-year-old bay Swedish warm-blood gelding by Contant Q. Barbara Setter, the owner, and Kyle Dewar, a professional rider, both based in Ocala, Florida. He's had a couple of knockdowns already as he's midway through and pulling the rails out of the A element of that double combination as well. That was actually 7A coming down. He did clear 7B. Looks like he's going to tip his hat to the remainder of the round there and receive no score with Carmet T. So a voluntary withdrawal on his third entry. He does, of course, have the earlier qualifier in Clever Vandel. Welcome winner a couple of weeks back, and a chance for him to advance on that one. Kyle also has two more on the list. Tybo van de Tejopehove, who was a Grand Prix winner just a few weeks back, and also Kastar Hoften Zotendale will also be rides for Kyle. So he's got one qualifier and a couple more opportunities coming up. Next to go will be Gavin Moylan. He's here aboard the Alden Moylan entry, Venturo, number 295. This again is Venturo, Gavin Moylan. Carmet T once again in a 10-year-old bay Swedish warm-blood gelding by Content Q. Again, just exiting there, and now we've got Venturo with us. This is Gavin Moylan's ride for Alden Moylan. So Venturo is 9 years old, a bay warm-blood gelding. Alden Moylan based out of Marshall, Virginia. Gavin's got bases in Virginia and in Wellington, Florida, the Palm Beach Point area. Tip the back rail there, and a little luck plays in as it stays in the cups. And so far, Gavin is good to go. Let's see if he stays that way coming down the final line. And yeah, he pulls it off so far in the triple. One more to go. And Gavin is successful in his chase for a return spot. Venturo will be good. Again, the 9-year-old bay warm-blood gelding, a clear qualifier for Gavin Moylan. His single entry in the class, and he makes good on that one opportunity. 6-16, David Jennings' number. He will be next to go in our welcome stake here at the Aiken Charity Show. This will be Follow Me. Follow Me is owned by Drummond Across LLC. Follow Me once again is Drummond Across LLC's entry. David Jennings is the rider. 616 the number for scoring here. Rail down at the middle of the course there, fence number 4. That's the Liverpool vertical here with the Hanoverian Gelding by 4 edition. Again, owned by Drummond Across LLC. Just the one rail there at fence number 4 on top of the Liverpool vertical. So that's a 4-fault penalty. 77.337 is the time for David and Follow Me. Once again, the Mount Dr. J, we have Grant Sager riding for Gray Fox Crossing. This a 13-year-old bay warm blood gelding by Diamant de Semilly. Gray Fox Crossing, the operation from Woodsboro, Texas, though, as I mentioned earlier, Grant Sager is an Aiken-based rider. Just this year, recently competing to a 4th and 5th in Grand Prix and Welcome Stake events north in Tryon a few weeks back. And he's already got that early entry. Cantaccini qualified to come back. Just missed the mark with Flash Dance pulling a single rail there, though that one did end up in the fastest 4-fault position, currently 6th. Coming around the bend, he's clear to here. Let's see if he can keep it that way in the triple combination in fence 13. Just a light rub at the top of A, and coming down on the safety cups at C means he will have a penalty of 4 and will drop that rail for the only 4-fault score. The finish time, 78.277. Another 4-faulter for Grant, so he's got 2 4-faulters and a clear on the list so far. Megan Wexler coming to us aboard the Golden Oaks Farm LLC entry Chronicle, number 337 next. This is actually our 21st to go. We've had a pretty good success rate here. A total of 6 qualified to this point, so it's shaping up to be a nice jump off with, again, Kyle Dewar, Grant Sager, Dory Douglas. She's actually got 2 qualified to go. Josh Dolan. And, of course, Gavin Moylan, our most recent contender to come back. But right now, again, it is Megan Wexler here aboard Chronicle. Her earlier entry did have a single knockdown, and actually I got those confused there. It was actually Flash Dance shown by Megan that has the quick 4-fault position there. So she's trying to avoid that single knockdown this time around on Chronicle. Down at the green is the new blue vertical, so the top rail drops for 4 faults so far. So now her focus becomes getting to the finish line in a fairly quick manner. But unfortunately, in the process, she also pulls rails at A and C of the triple combination. Jumping one more, crossing through the finish line. It'll be with a 12-fault penalty with Chronicle. Chris Killam's second opportunity coming up. This time around, he'll be piloting Top Horses LLC's Gangster CHS. This is number 639. Gangster CHS is a 10-year-old bay royal Dutch warm-blood gelding by Eldorado van de Zeshuk. Top Horses LLC based out of Leawood, Kansas, with Chris Killam again based out of Ocala. Good effort to this point for Gangster CHS. And luck playing in the triple combination there for Chris Killam. Stays alive for a penalty-free and qualified effort. 77 and change time, but more importantly, no penalties at all. That's the 7th one that will contend for the biggest portion of the Welcome Stake prize. Deirdre Stoker-Viancourt, our sponsor of this welcome class, again well established here in Aiken as the premier real estate agent. And as I told you early in the broadcast, this is an incredible place to live. I can tell you that from personal experience. And if you're here this time of year, I don't know how you could resist at least the urge to investigate whether or not it's the place for you. Whether you're looking for a farm or home, make sure you look to Deirdre Stoker-Viancourt of Maybom Fine. And, of course, she sponsored our welcome class. But more importantly, if you're looking for a beautiful place to live, she has all of the information you could need to make that a reality. We are underway now with Phantom. This will be a Harold chopping ride for Andrew Philbrook and a third effort for Harold, the Southern Pines-based professional. Phantom, once again, 11 years of age, base stallion, a warm blood by Cardento. Good through the double combination, and now he's halfway through the course. Harold's last outing here produced a 4-fault penalty with a horse named Quadrant. So far here with Phantom, he's good to go. Trying to stay that way as there's a light rub on the front of the Scherer Dale Oxer. Coming around to that triple combination. Cutting in to make good time on the way to the finish line now. And unfortunately, it's unlucky fence number 13. He came closer with that mount than the previous two, but still ends up with a knockdown. 76.406 is the time. He will fortunately be in the quick four-fault group. And Harold's got another one coming up later on a horse named Fast Forward. We'll see what that one can produce. But for now, perhaps the most consistent contestant so far, as Dorothy Douglas is back, this time aboard Davenport Farms MTM Through the Looking Glass. Now, Dory has piloted MTM Cedric to a penalty-free ride. She's done the same with MTM Pablo. And now MTM Through the Looking Glass is another of her opportunities to get through to that jump-off round. Trying to stack the deck in our $5,000 welcome stake. Just in fantastic form so far here today. She is really on point. Dory coming around the bend to pass the halfway mark in this course with yet another entry. Can she go 3 for 3? This one is the Bay 13-year-old Royal Dutch Warmblood mare by Aiken, owned by Davenport Farms out of Devon, Pennsylvania. And she rocks the back rail, but she's still good so far. Last jump is clear as well. 76 and change the time. She makes short work of a penalty-free course. And again, she is batting 1,000 up to this point. That'll be the 8th contestant that makes it into our tie-breaking round. The welcome stake will go into a second tiebreaker, or excuse me, a first tiebreaker, but a second round of competition here. Not too far away, in fact. At this point, we've got 9 left in the first round, and Kyle Dewar has the next chance to get through, this time with Tybo van de Tejopahov, an entry of Joan Burke. This was his Grand Prix winner a few weeks back at Stableview here in Aiken. And, of course, as I mentioned earlier, his first entry, Clever Vandal, was the welcome winner there. So Kyle's had a very successful spring tour. Of course, there's only one multiple qualifier in this group, that being Dory Douglas, 3 for 3. Kyle would certainly like to give himself another opportunity in the jump-off. Luck runs out over that big vertical atop the Liverpool center ring. Number 4. Tybo van de Tejopahov is a 12-year-old chestnut Zangerside gelding by Turbo van het Gistelhof. Rounding the bend of the triple combination, trying to keep it on just the 4 for that early course knockdown. And one jump away from possibly doing that. He will have just the 4. His time is going to be just over the time allowed, though, 81 and change. And that means 4 jumping plus 1 on the clock. Kyle's still got Clever Van de Hel waiting in the wings to come back for a second round. And he also has Kasterhoften Zotendil, who will be another contestant in the first round. In fact, that's going to be the last one we see before we make the jump-off adjustment. Tom Foley's second ride in the class will now be the Elios Group entry, Elios Prime, number 622. Elios Prime, at 9 years of age, a Bay Dutch warm-blood gelding by Indoctro, again owned by the Elios Group out of Jamaica Estates, New York. Tom Foley's taken a fourth just over a week ago at our Aiken Spring Classic Masters that happened across town on this mount. Just a bit deep coming into that combination to pull the front rail of the Oxer. And now as well, the green is the new blue, vertical is down. We're working on an 8-fault penalty. Green is the new blue, in case you're not familiar, an initiative to try to live a little bit more green. It involves, of course, recycling, trying not to use single-use plastics and more, and we're glad to play a role in that. That's a 2-knockdown penalty. 8 faults is the result for Tom Foley and the Elios Group entry, Elios Prime. Second opportunity coming up now for Josh Dolan. He's here with Achille van der Horst. This is his own entry, number 366. Once again, Josh Dolan, the rider here, and this is Achille van der Horst, just over a week ago, placing at the top of the list on a couple of entries in the Aiken Spring Classic Masters Grand Prix. I should say top 3 placings on 2 entries there. Unfortunately, on this one today, it's going to be the first fence in the course that'll come down for a penalty so far. Rail down as well at fence number 4, so we're working right now on an 8-fault penalty. Looks like it'll be a tip of the hat for Josh Dolan with Achille van der Horst, so that's going to be a voluntary withdrawal marked on the card. At this point, we're down to Tori Colvin, Jody Camberg, Camille Madrix, Harold Chopping, Dorothy Douglas, and Kyle Dewar. So all told, 6 more to show here in our $5,000 welcome stake. And again, 8 qualifiers to jump off up to this point. An exciting jump off is certainly in store for us here when we get into that second round. This is just one of the featured classes this week at our Aiken Charity Show. Coming up tomorrow, we will have a hunter feature event, and that's going to happen, in fact, in our special events arena, the biggest venue on our facility here. Tomorrow evening, again, is going to be when that will take place. 4 o'clock is the start time for the Aiken Charity Open Hunter Classic, where they're going to offer $25,000 in prize money. Slightly different in judging from the derbies that have become so popular, but fear not, we do have a derby in store for you as well during our second week of Aiken Charity competition. So we've got a full slate of jumper and hunter events in the feature column here for 2021. Right now, though, it's Tori Colvin on course, competing with us aboard her second ride in the class. She actually had another one entered, but that one did not show. Actually, she had an early one entered. She did actually show Carrie Grant. So this is actually her second ride, in fact. And this is a Jim Mino for BMT Partners, 272. Tori Wellington, Florida based. And from the time she was just fresh in the irons, she was known to be a go-getter and one of the most natural talents in the sport. She can take on rides of all types and succeed at the highest levels, as demonstrated by her starts in all of the levels of competition, from the ponies on up into the highest ranks of the professional divisions, and she's still quite a young rider in any event to have accomplished as much as she has. She had to regain a lot of composure coming out of that triple combination, lost her balance a bit, lost her reins, had to gather them back up so that she could get to that finish line penalty-free, and she will do so. Tori Colvin wrapping up in fine fashion aboard Jimino, so she will be penalty-free. She'll be our 9th one to qualify for that jump-off. Nicely done. Showing you that grit and determination pay off, as does the natural horsemanship that she has shown all throughout her years. Well, this is Coranos T and Jody Camberg for the ride, one of the 5 remaining in round 1 of our welcome. Jody Camberg once again on course here, California native. She is here today with Jimino. I'm sorry, she's here aboard Coranos T, that is. And she's unfortunately going to pull that front rail on the DFG Oxer. Junior amateur contestant on a regular basis is Coranos T. This is a 9-year-old bay, Holsteiner gelding by Lourdanos. Jody's home base in Calabasas, California. So she's a long way from home, but glad to have her here in Aiken. She does pull the second rail in the combination, 6B or 7B, that is. Coming down on the back rail of the Sherardale Oxer means so far she'll be at 12 faults. 16 to here, approaching the final fence but appearing to call it a day. We'll see if she circles back around and gives fence 13 another try. She does, in fact, go over the fence 13 to wrap up the course here. And so she will receive the score. Having circled before the last fence, she'll have a 20 fault score on the course, plus the time faults for going over. Camille Madrix is with us now. This is, once again, Jack Straw, M&M Sport Horses, entry number 568. Camille showed her ribbons in the Ocala Grand Prix and Open Jumper ranks this season with Jack Straw. Also recently competed in the South Florida Wellington Spring Tour. Jack Straw is 11 years old, a Basel Francais gelding by Quattro de Riverland, based in Lexington, Kentucky. She'll have that penalty for the top rail of the D&W group fence. That means 4 faults so far. Good luck in the triple combination there. Just a rub on the fence there, but it stays up, and she finishes with 4 in a 79.211 time. 4 faults. Last of Harold Chopping's rides scheduled to go next is named Fast Forward. Well, hopefully he can move forward to the jump off with this one. Set a couple of prior entries that came oh so close, just a knockdown apiece on his earlier entries. Looks like Dory Douglas is going to step up a position here to show before Harold joins us, though. And based on what she's done so far, we can quite possibly count on her getting through again, just like she did on MTM Cedric, her first ride, as well as on MTM Pablo, her second ride, and MTM Through the Looking Glass, her third ride. So far, she has been perfect in the 3 previous entries. We'll try to stay that way with MTM Chelsea 98 for MTM Farm. MTM Chelsea 98, a 13-year-old Gray Westphalian mare by Cristallo out of Flower Mound, Texas, the home base of MTM Farm. This is another of the mounts that showed under Dory's handling here throughout the course of the Hits Ocala winter season. Placed nicely in the ribbons in several of the Grand Prix down there from 2nd, 4th, 10th placings. Placed 5th in a $100,000 main event in Ocala. Dorothy recently competed as well in the Jacksonville Spring Series and had ribbons in the Welcome and Grand Prix over both weeks of competition there. Was actually a runner-up aboard this mount in the most recent of those Welcome classes. Well, she was batting 1,000. This one, however, will pull a rail at the Purina Oxer. So that's a 4-fault score so far. Steering away from the first combination there, knowing that, of course, she didn't have a chance to get into the jump-off with this horse. So now the focus quite possibly becomes just giving him a good experience. Wise decision there to get him through that combination without a problem. Coming down the final line, and with the rail on the back side of the triple combination, she is up to 12 faults, two knockdowns as well as a circle. A 97 and change time will, of course, add penalties on the clock. We're down to just 2 more to go. Next up is Harold Chopping, as I mentioned, with a horse named Fast Forward. This one is for the Rain Family LLC. Fast Forward is an 11-year-old Royal Dutch warm-blood gelding by Calvarosi. Rain Family, as I mentioned earlier, based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, about 45 minutes north of Harold Chopping's professional operation there in Southern Pines. Harold Chopping, I also said, had a couple of close calls as far as qualifying earlier. 2 horses that had just a knockdown apiece. The most recent one with a rail at just the last fence. So he was very close to qualifying that earlier entry. But right now, all of his focus is on this Fast Forward. Let's hope he gets a chance to get in there. Nine entries so far, good to go as Harold rounds the bend of the midway point of the course here. Clear over 6, approaching that first combination. And good over 7A and B. Making short work of it and in good jumping form so far as they come around to the final combo. The triple there, 12A. B is the culprit and a penalty, unfortunately, for Harold. That's 4. And that will be the only knockdown again. 78.834 his time with a single knockdown. Harold Chopping, a great rider, very well respected, and, of course, very successful throughout his career. Today, not his day, as he comes close on 3 mounts, but does pull rails on those for 4 faults apiece. Last one to go will be a Kyle Dewar entry. Can he bookend the clear list? Having the penalty-free ride aboard Clever Vendale right out of the blocks. And now coming to finish things up in round 1 with Kasterhof ten Zoetendeel. Kyle's owned and ridden entry, number 608, is here to wrap up round 1. And, of course, we'll make an adjustment for the jump-off after this. Kasterhof ten Zoetendeel is an 11-year-old gray Belgian gelding by Der Senat 111. Trouble at the Purina Oxer there, unfortunately, as Castor getting a little bit out of hand there going around the bend, so he's going to regain composure. We'll see what he does and decides to do here as far as continuing on in the course. Stop of forward momentum appears to be the choice for Kyle, and he will withdraw from the round at that point, having gotten them at least halfway through the course here, not allowing him to just get away with the sort of haughtiness out of fence number 5. He got Castor back in hand, took him down the line here through fence number 8, and then decided, call it a day, save the jumps for another event, and go ahead and focus on his single qualifier for the jump-off, that being Clever Vandel. And so Kyle will exit and have the duty to get that one ready to come back first in the jump-off. So we'll drag the ring. We will adjust the course. Michel Vaillancourt will lead them in that adjustment, and then we'll come back with the following entries good to go. Kyle's ride, Clever Vandel, leading the way. Grant Sager's Cantuccini for Gray Fox Crossing, of course, coming second in that order. And then one of the 3 Dory Douglas qualifiers, Nina Moore's MTM Cedric, will show third. We'll also have Josh Dolan and Beyoncé Demont showing fourth in the jump-off. Dory's MTM Pablo scheduled 5th, though certainly we may have others move up there to give her time between her rides. Among them, we could have Gavin Moylan with Venturo, who's qualified, Chris Killam with Gangster CHS. Dory's other one is MTM Through the Looking Glass, of course, and then Tori Colvin and Jamino for BMT Partners. Those are the ones good to go. And we'll let you see how things shake out here getting into the jump-off round. We'll also go over the specifics of that tie-breaking course when we come back out of this break. We're glad you've joined us. Equestrian Digital Media offering up our broadcast of the Aiken Charity Show as we are deep into one of our feature events, our $5,000 welcome, brought to you by Deirdre Stoker Vaillancourt. Again, great real estate agent, very knowledgeable in the field here in beautiful Aiken, South Carolina. Well, once again, coming back into the second round of action, as I told you, 9 made it through, among them Kyle Dewar, and his single qualifier, Clever Vandell, will be the first one to show the course here. That jump-off will be over 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 AB, and 8, and the time allowed will be 41 seconds. And, of course, Michelle Vaillancourt designing the routes here today. We have Deirdre Stoker Vaillancourt as our sponsor of the welcome class, and we're about to commence with the competition. We'll see what Kyle has to offer. We'll get a little break in the action. I'd certainly like to hear a little bit from Deirdre because she's got so much time and experience here in the Aiken community. I, of course, grew up in this community myself, and it is an incredible place to live. Have since moved away, but love coming back here, especially during this beautiful time of year. But first, let's concentrate on Kyle's effort, making a nice little short path between fence 1 and 2. They've gotten the Scherer Dale fence out of the way there to make for that route. And looking good and getting lucky as well at fence number 4 as they cut back now to, again, 7A and B. Unfortunately, they'll jump through the front of that oxer for a 4-fault penalty and around to number 8 where they finish through the line. 30.798 will be the finish time for Kyle with the knockdown penalty of 4 faults. 30.798 with a 4-fault score. Ocala-based is Kyle Dewar, and based here in Aiken for the past year and a half will be Grant Sager. Grant joins us next with Gray Fox Crossings Ken Tuccini. Not long after he came to Aiken, Ken Tuccini was a big class winner in several events here in town. We're very fortunate to have several venues, and that is a testament to the wealth of equestrian talent and equestrian folk we have in this beautiful facility, this beautiful area, I should say. But Grant is going to contend next, try to beat that 4-fault score first off. Staying clear would put him on top, but doing so in a quick time would give him a better chance at a win, keeping in mind there are several others who will chase. So now his objective, since he's got the knockdown at the Maybum Fine Oxer, is to go faster than Kyle Dewar and stay at 4 faults. Pace is looking a little bit behind that of Kyle Dewar. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Ken Tuccini, a bit of a bigger strided horse, so maybe he's making better time than we can see. To the finish line he'll go. 32.242 would prove out that, in fact, he was a little bit behind that pace with the 4 faults. So first and second in the order, first and second in the standings so far. And that brings us to the most successful rider up to this point in the welcome, that being Dorothy Douglas. And as she's done on all of her previous mounts, she makes a charge right over toward the judges' stand to get a good look at things before she begins. And her first of 3 qualifiers now is MTM Cedric, the entry owned by Nina Moore. Again, if her earlier performance was any sort of indication, she could potentially be the first one to get penalty-free through this jump-off. And she's in the wind-up now on the way around that GGT vertical fence number 1. Keeping it clear, as I said, will be her first objective to put her on top. She does have the benefit of 3 rides, which means she can use the experience gained on this one to maybe even improve on the next ones. But maybe it's not even necessary if she can hit a fast pace in a clear effort. Keeping it fairly steady, not just zooming around the course, in fact cutting fairly wide around to 7A and B, and clear to there with just 1 fence remaining. Can she do it? Yes, she can. Faultless in 35.370. As I said, it is a fairly slow but steady pace that will keep her on top. Well behind the previous 2 on the clock, but if you can do that and stay clear, that's all it takes for the lead. Of course, she's got the challenge of Josh Dolan coming up next. Josh Dolan recently reestablishing himself here in South Carolina. He's aboard the Armegan Patterson entry, Beyoncé de Mont. He had 2 mounts in the first round. This was his single qualifier to come back. And, of course, we know there's room for improvement on the clock, but doing so without penalty is the biggest objective. 35.310 is the clear, or 35.370 rather, is the clear fast pace as of now. Arking efficiently back around to Oxer number 2. The namesake of our sponsor, Deirdre Stoker-Vaillancourt. Making a nice efficient route to the DFG Stables Oxer as well. He's doing everything he can without running, again, out of control. Being very efficient, as I've said. Taken back just a bit in that tight turn at 7A and B. If I'm not mistaken, he will be ahead at the finish line here. He does keep them up in 31.462. That will be a leading effort there. It's actually the second fastest as far as time because we did see Kyle faster, but 31.462 is a very nice and efficient route and one without penalty, most importantly. Josh Dolan goes on top with Beyoncé de Mont. Of course, the next in our order is another Dory Douglas ride. She's only 1 round removed from her previous effort aboard MTM Cedric, so it gives us a little time while we're waiting for her to return there with MTM Pablo to talk to Deirdre herself. Deirdre, I love seeing you. I don't get to see you as much as I used to when I lived here in Aiken, since I've moved away to Lexington. But, man, it's such a pleasure to come back, especially when I have a chance to see friends like you. Why don't you tell me what it is that brought you here? Obviously, you're not native to this area yourself.
No, Brian, and thank you for asking me to have a conversation with you today. My family first came to Aiken in the 1940s. My father was encouraged to visit because he had an uncle from Toronto that was part of that early winter colony, and they had racehorses. And he fell in love with the lifestyle in the Hitchcock Woods and made many friends. And then as life took him, we built a farm outside of Montreal where we were all raised. And it wasn't until 1977 that my parents decided it was time to come back to Aiken and give us an opportunity to fall in love with it as he had. My parents owned a home here until my mother's death 3 years ago, but my brother, sister, and I, Tara Bostwick, my brother Dacre Stoker, and I have been so fortunate to have been here and raised our family here. Aiken is a very, we say, eclectic community because it draws people from all over the country, Canada, and Europe.
Indeed, and you know, it's funny when you find out how surprised folks are when they make their way down here to this, what people would call an equestrian enclave or a winter colony, as you mentioned, because some folks, and I've even spoken to people just as of yesterday, but maybe many times throughout the years, think about a place like Aiken, South Carolina that they perhaps have never heard of before, and their first time hearing about it, they think, what could possibly be there? But they're always very surprised when they show up in this beautiful town, especially if you're into horses, but even if you're not, because when you come here, there really is, as you said, an eclectic community of people from all over the world. It's got a very cosmopolitan feel for such a small town, doesn't it?
And very, very welcoming. When people call me from a distance and ask if they would come and look at Aiken and would they be welcome as outsiders, I tell them the story as how so much of the early era of Aiken, starting in the late 1800s, when people came up from the coast to avoid the mosquitoes and the heat in the summertime, they were the ones that contributed to the economy. They built the beautiful homes. There were lovely old historic hotels here, which started this southern hospitality in Aiken, South Carolina. So today we see just a real renaissance of that happening all over again.
And it's happened several times, as you mentioned, a renaissance. It's interesting to think about some of the history outside of horses that has happened here. A lot of folks have come here not necessarily because of the horses, but this was chosen right next to Aiken, a town called Ellington, was chosen as a site for a place called the Savannah River Project. And without getting into too much detail, it was a nuclear facility of sorts, and people came from all over the world for jobs at the Savannah River site. That's, in fact, one of the reasons that I came here because my own dad was hired to work at the Savannah River site back in the late 80s, and that brought us down here. And in fact, while we had some experience with horses prior to that time, nothing like the experience that I gained from that time forward that got me into the horse show. But that also brings a very eclectic, very cosmopolitan group to this area. So whether you're into horses or not, you're going to find something in this area, and the weather itself is so moderate. Right now, I mean, you just can't, if you're watching online, I hope the stream captures it to some extent, but there's nothing like being here in the mid-70s with a nice breeze blowing, partly cloudy skies. It's just incredible.
I think, to go back to the Savannah River site just very briefly, it changed the whole economic demeanor of this town because the level of education that came with families like yours, it was the largest recruiting effort ever, I think, by the Department of Energy. They brought in nuclear engineers who had were highly educated, and so their expectations for their own children were so high, which resulted in more high schools being built, all the way through, of course, and now we have a tremendous opportunity to educate children very well here in Aiken, from beginning to University of South Carolina and the Aiken campus. So, as you said, it's a fantastic, multifaceted community. You don't have to love horses. You can be a spectator and not even participate, but enjoy all these wonderful days together.
Indeed, and as you mentioned that, I mean, whether you're talking about the public or the private schools, they are all very well rated here in Aiken, South Carolina. Beautiful homes, as you said. We've got incredible restaurants in this very small town, but still a high per capita rate of good food. We also have, incredible hotels and more. And as you mentioned, education beyond primary or secondary school. We, of course, as you mentioned, we have University of South Carolina's Aiken campus here. It's also within very nice proximity of several other great universities in the Carolinas, and we're not very far from good airports as well. Of course, Augusta Regional has pretty good flights, but if you go up to Columbia, it's not that much further up the road. You can get nice flights out of there as well, so you're very accessible to other parts of the world while you're here in Aiken.
Well, and certainly flying out for individuals that have to leave for business. My husband, Michel, who travels consistently throughout the year, can get anywhere around the country, and the smaller regional airports make it a lot easier than having to go out of an Atlanta or to fly out of a Charlotte. They're easy to access, but certainly flying out of Columbia or Augusta takes half the time.
And I tell you, if you have to make a connection somewhere, maybe that seems like a little bit of a pain, but one thing that will sort of make up for that is checking into an airport like Augusta Regional, where you literally park across the street from the terminal. You lock your door, you can see your car while you're in the terminal, you check your bags right there. You could legitimately, up until more recent times, show up at the airport in Augusta 30 minutes before your flight and not be concerned whatsoever about making it on board.
And of course, not to say, we also have the Aiken Regional Airport, which has small jets that can come in and out, and during the Masters, of course, it's chock-a-block full of the biggest jets that can possibly land there. But that is also accessible to our residents in Aiken, and a number of our residents, horses or not, can come in and fly their planes in and out of that airport.
Indeed.
Really convenient. And they're a sponsor here, I believe, Aiken Regional.
Indeed they are. And, again, that brings us to another point. I don't mean to just continue going on and on, but you can't believe the level of golf courses that are here. Of course, being across the river from the Masters, it would stand to reason that there's going to be some golf here, but there really are incredible quality golf courses in the area, some of them in some of those fine neighborhoods where you'd be possibly representing as an agent on some of the incredible properties in the area. All right, well, we are getting back to action here. Deirdre hopefully will stay with us for another couple of minutes if she's got the urge, but we right now are going to take a look at Dorothy Douglas and her second ride. She came in with MTM Cedric to set the standard at 35.370. We knew at the time she finished the course that was not the quickest route, and it was proven to be the case thereafter with Josh Dolan's time aboard Beyoncé de Monte, which took over the lead in 31.462. So now Dorothy Douglas, having gained experience on the first mount, is back on a second one, this one being MTM Pablo, of course, for MTM Farm out of Flower Mound, Texas, and she's just been having an incredible day. Deirdre, I know you're a equestrian yourself, have ridden all of your life, have competed as well, and it's nice to bring this high level of talent. 35 or 34, I should say, in a welcome class is a pretty doggone good number early in the week.
Oh, it's a huge testament to what the horse park has been able to accomplish.
And here she goes up and over the final fence. That one definitely in shorter order than the first ride for Dory. 32.04 not quite fast enough for her to take over the lead on that one, but she's made up a little bit of ground. In fact, she's only about half a second behind Josh Dolan and Beyonce Demont. So we'll see what happens as she comes back on her next entry. Dorothy Douglas again wrapping up in 32.049 aboard MTM Pablo. And now we will have Gavin Moylan come to us with Alden Moylan's entry Venturo, number 295. He only had one opportunity to qualify. This was the one, and he made good on it. So Gavin, we'll see whether if he can beat that 31.462 effort. Josh Dolan holding out the lead so far as we're better than halfway through the group. 5 of 9 have shown to this point. Gavin doing a bit of an alternative wind-up there. Everybody else took the right lead turn back to the GGT vertical. Gavin turning to the left to do so to maintain what's going to be a continuing left lead arc over to your jump there, the Deirdre Stoker-Viancourt Oxer. Coming up the diagonal line and clearing the DFG Oxer. Regaining composure on the approach to the Liverpool vertical and tight turning back to 7A. Great form on his horse here today, Venturo. And he's coming up on the last jump, finishing the course in 32.028. He'll take over second place right now with Alden Moylan's entry in 32.028. So Gavin, the runner-up currently. Chris Killam coming up next, and he is with us now aboard the Top Horses LLC entry, Gangster CHS. Remember, our time to beat right now is 31.462. Let's see what he has to offer. Surveying the course and perhaps in slow fashion, taking a look at what that turn back might look like between 4 and 7A. Of course, it's a whole different appearance at speed. Coming around the bend again, he'll choose the right lead approach to that GGT vertical. Little prompting vocally there from Chris on his way to fence number 2. And a bit of a wide turn back to the DFG Oxer. So the DFG Oxer did come down there for a penalty of 4. He's now approaching the final fence. Looked like a pretty efficient route despite the knockdown. 32.100 the finish time there, again, for Chris Killam and Gangster CHS. So that brings us to 2 remaining. The next one, a Dory Douglas ride as well. So she has to have a little bit more time to get that one ready, I'm sure, giving us maybe another moment to talk to Deirdre Viancourt. Deirdre, are there any areas of town that would be sort of hot spots you would recommend, or is there pretty much something to offer in all quadrants of Aiken?
I think that's a really good question because there is something for everyone. If you want to live in an equestrian community that's very strictly equestrian, that has amenities, you don't have to build your own rings, you have lovely trail systems, certainly there are a number of those to choose from. If you are not interested in horses and you want to live downtown in the equestrian corridor, some of the beautiful old restored historic luxury homes, there's 1 or 2 still available. The market has been extraordinarily fast. So we have had many, many interested people calling all of us realtors who love to do what we do here. And the biggest challenge is to find the inventory. Right now it's very difficult, but as one person sells, a neighbor looks on and says, well, maybe it's time for me to give it a shot. So as realtors, we're very hopeful that we're able to help place people in new homes, but we also hope we're able to help people sell their homes. And a lot of them are for real reasons of life. You know, birth, death, divorce, grandchildren, So there's a very active market here in Aiken. It's
Downsizing, upsizing, things like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
all of the above.
You know, it's interesting what happened last year. You know, I hate to even say the C word at this point, but of course, COVID brought a lot of changes to our lives. But one of the things that was sort of interesting, and not just here in Aiken, but in a lot of places, was how people really started scooping up properties. They wanted to have their own place. I mean, there are a lot of people that maybe were renting prior or were indecisive about where they wanted to live, but then they thought, we got to nail this down. I need a place to call my own.
I think there's lots of reasons for that. And yes, COVID had a lot to do as a trigger, but when it first hit, all of a sudden the market just crashed like the stock market did. And then people realized that life went on. But I think it was a perfect storm. Prior to COVID, we had a very strong stock market, very strong economics, and people were beginning to realize, as they were in that baby boom generation with the largest accumulation of wealth in any of our lifetimes, so people could make choices again. And then COVID hit, and we realized that really tomorrow is a gift. It's not a given.
Right. So what are you waiting for, right?
What are you waiting for? And the remote work that we're able to do now has made a huge difference in people's independence.
Yeah, if you can get an internet stream, then as you are right now, if you're watching this broadcast from the Aiken Charity Horse Show, then pretty much almost regardless of what your job is, you are going to be able to work from pretty much anywhere. So that's a bit of a prompting to say, if you want to come to Aiken, you might think we're a rural environment. We have sort of rural accoutrements to the area, but you have a lot of ability to do whatever you want from this location. So you can enjoy that incredible equestrian lifestyle, sort of small town feel, and have the ability to network with people anywhere in the world these days. So what are you waiting for? Maybe come down to Aiken. We've got two left to go here. The first of two coming in will actually be Tori Colvin, moving up in the order. So she is going to give Dory Douglas just a little bit more time to get her final horse ready. Tori rides BMT Partners entry, and that will be Jamino. So this is 272. Tori Colvin certainly has the chops to get on top. We'll see what happens now as she chases that 31.462 effort. Josh Dolan leading the way. Tori Colvin challenging as one of the two left to go. She's going to straighten up to get to the DFG Stables Oxer there. Successful to that point. And staying fairly efficient. Not a blazing effort from what we can tell up now. But Tori staying clear so far. Through the combination and approaching the last jump. She'll probably be in that 34-second range if my inner clock is right. 35.078, in fact. 35.078, the time there with Jamino for BMT Partners. So that one not a top time, but certainly in the good ribbons here. At this point, she will stand fifth, and we'll have one more to go. The last one is going to be that Dory Douglas ride to wrap things up. Should be just a moment before she joins us here with MTM Through the Looking Glass. As I said, Dorothy Douglas was clear on 3 of her 4 entries in the first round. She has cleared the jump-off course on the first 2, and we'll try to keep that string alive here on the third and final entry. This time, maybe she will have gained the requisite knowledge to be the fastest of the clears as well. She was very close to Josh Dolan's time there with MTM Pablo in 32.049. Dropped 1 position to third after Alden Moylan's Venturo, and Gavin Moylan posted a 32.028 time, but it's still Josh Dolan on top in 31.462. And just one final word here for Deirdre Stoker-Vaillancourt. We appreciate that you have chosen to be a part of the Aiken Charity Show. I know your sister Tara is a big part of Bruce's Field and the Aiken Horse Park here, as are many others who serve on the board and those who help to develop this park. And there are big things on the horizon at this facility as well. I'm sure you're aware of some of those.
Indeed. But I think the most important thing you just said here, Brian, was it's a charity horse show. And we must keep that at the forefront of everything that we do. This was left to us by Bruce Duchessois, who was probably one of the many, I shouldn't say the greatest, one of the many great philanthropists that have come to Aiken. And the reason we have this wonderful lifestyle that all of you are coming to Aiken for is because of people like Bruce and all of the people today who are contributing to these horse shows and the charities that we're able to give back to as a result of the money that's generated at this horse show. And we open it to the public. We even have public Special Olympics here. It's not just a hunter jumper show. We have dressage shows here. We have the eventing showcase. But we always give back to the community. And I think that's something that is of pay it forward. And that's what many people recognize when they come to Aiken, is they bring something to the table and are willing to share it.
And as you talk about Bruce being a philanthropist among many other great philanthropists in the area and in our equestrian world, it should be noted that those were hard-fought battles. It wasn't just a matter of deciding to give financially to the cause. Bruce and company, those who developed this horse park, they had a lot of fights from those who were traditionalists here in Aiken, wanted to keep this a steeplechase track as it was for such a long time. It was still a steeplechase track up until 2 years ago, or last year, I should say. Just some development that went into this, and you look at the results, and that hard work is definitely worth it, has definitely paid off. But they really had to go for quite a long time working on making this dream come true, and we're so glad that we could do it. Of course, while Bruce was still alive, but then after his passing, it came to full fruition, and we're glad that we can be here at this Aiken Charity Horse Show at the realization of his dream once again in 2021. But we're down to the last one to go. I believe that we're going to send Deirdre off to take care of the awards here. We're just one trip away from, but Deirdre, thank you very much for being with us as we watch Dorothy Douglas wrap it up with MTM Through the Looking Glass. Again, she's trying to catch the target time of 31.462 here in our $5,000 welcome stake. And she is going for it, ladies and gentlemen. A very direct route between the GGT Vertical and the Maybum Fine Oxer, and rounding the bend of the DFG Oxer. If I'm not mistaken, she is on target at this point. If she can make a tight turn of it back to 7AB, and she does. Not too tight to be able to make that gap between the jumps. She's well done. And all the way through in round two with no faults, 30.660 will be on top. So it's her third and final jump-off ride that nets the victory here. Dorothy Douglas, nicely done, posting the best effort aboard, again, her third entry, MTM Through the Looking Glass. What an incredible day she has had. Davenport Farms entry will be the winner, but very consistent all the way through with 4 mounts entered, 3 of them qualified for the jump-off round, all 3 penalty-free, starting off with MTM Cedric, then again with MTM Pablo, getting even faster with MTM Through the Looking Glass, and that's going to be your winner, blue ribbon effort in our $5,000 welcome stake. On down through the list, of course, we have Josh Dolan in a 31.462 time for second place. The third place time was that of Gavin Moylan and Venturo in 32.028. Then Dory Douglas and MTM Pablo in 32.049 will hold down the fourth position. Chris Killam, of course, had the penalties there aboard Gangster CHS. We had Tori Colvin with a penalty-free ride aboard BMT Partners entry in 35.078 with Jamino. Other clears in the class here today, including Dorothy Douglas's early ride MTM Cedric. And then we also, of course, have Kyle Dewar, Grant Seeger will also be in the ribbons. And we'll have those presentations coming up for you here in just a few minutes. Of course, Deidre Stoker-Viancourt listed as our sponsor of this $5,000 welcome. J.P. Goddard of Equestre Events, our manager. Jennifer Glass, part of our presentation group, along with Missy McCutcheon. So we'll have the presentation underway now, and Sarah Stanton of A&S Photography on hand to capture the winning moment. We'll go ahead and let you follow along as the audience on site here is doing, and listen to our announcer Mike Lowry take you through the awards in our $5,000 welcome stake. Please tune in again tomorrow, $25,000 Hunter Classic, and of course on Saturday, our Grand Prix main event will be our feature focus of our streaming coverage from the Aiken Charity Horse Show.
In second place, setting the pace with a great ride early on in the class, and he held on to it right till the very end. Nice job for Josh Dolan aboard Beyonce Simon, 365. And it's shown by Megan Patterson of Malvern, Pennsylvania. Second place finish in today's welcome stake. Rounding out our top three at 295 is the entry number. Gavin Moylan of Marshall, Virginia, finishing in the third place. Ventura, entry of Alden Moylan, third place of the welcome stake, sponsored by DG Stoker Valancourt. Congratulations, Gavin. Job well done. That indicates it's time for a victory gallop around the jump ring here at Deuces Field, led by a winner once again. Congratulations to MTS Peru, the Looking Glass, Joy Douglas, showing for Davenport Farms, actually, in Devon, Pennsylvania. A lap of honor around the field.
Done? We good? Nick? Cool. Should I start breaking down? All right.